Welcome to the Softland Central podcast, your home for market entry knowledge and resources. Softland Central is brought to you by Softland Partners, an online marketplace to help you find best fit resources for your market entry. Find them at softlandpartners.com. Let's shift a little bit and talk about how do folks advantage themselves of this process, and maybe talking first a little bit about the virtual meetups. We had a virtual meetup last week. Alice, you and I were there. Gosh, there were so many funny things about it. Just before we started the webinar, you mentioned it was so cool how long people stayed on afterwards. But what are your reflections on the virtual event that we had last week?
So I will say that I was delightfully surprised at how successful it was. I think in the past, when we've tried virtual events, we find that there's significant drop off compared to a live event, much lower attendance rate. But I think with the state of the world right now, a lot of people were into it, and it turned out to be really powerful. I loved that everybody came. And already you're seeing how respectful and thoughtful the community is. People gave brief intros so that we got through everybody quickly. People really listened attentively and had thoughtful questions. People brought a lot of resources to the resource section and were really able to answer each other's questions, and were already thinking about how they could work together and how they could support each other. So I really love that. But I think the measure of a success for an event for me is always how many people are chatting at the end, how many people really seem like they're talking, connecting. And it was exciting because we ended on time, on program, which is always a thrill, a little gift from the event gods. And then people stayed and talked for another 30 minutes, and it's interesting because I think when you think of a live event, excuse me, you can think about how people can kind of go off on twos and threes and have conversations, but this was like 20 people hanging in and continuing to chat as a group for 30 minutes. It was really exciting to see, and just the quality of the people in our community is already extraordinarily high. Everyone's in this specific niche, everyone has different contributions to make, and I think, like Philip said earlier, people are going to make each other better, and that was already something that we were starting to see sparks of. So really exciting.
Yeah, the only thing we probably want to consider for the next one is having a pause to refill.
Yeah, refill your drinks. Take
Exactly.
a little break.
For those that weren't there, that we had people came with their beverage of choice, and probably at some point like a seventh inning stretch or something to refill
Yeah.
your beverage. But Philip, what did you hear? You said your business partner was pleased as well.
Yeah, it was really about he was this similarly surprised at how smoothly things went. I mean, when I was working at the accelerator, we ran so many events, and I've learned that events go wrong. Like, that's a rule. There's just never a perfect event. But he was really pleased with how it went down. He was also really happy to kind of see the structure and the format play out, and in particular was interested by some of the people who kind of opened up with the introductions in the very beginning. Numa in particular is a partner that we work with, and we both mentor at that accelerator, and we really love them. So that was really cool to see them represented there. But yeah, I think he walked away, really feeling the buzz of the opportunity that might come from doing these on a consistent basis, as well as a lot of questions, kind of of where is it going to go, what's next, how can we support further. So that's what's really cool, is I do think that everyone's walking away from that event thinking when are we going to do it again, and also what else is there, because this seems like there's going to be a lot. So that's really exciting to hear from him.
Cool. So let's chat a little bit about how to get prepared, how do people best advantage themselves. So just about 48 hours before the event, we sent out a projected attendee list with at registration. We asked folks who they're hoping to meet at, whether through the meetup or in the community, and so we had that on the list as well. How would you suggest, and maybe go to Philip first, how do people get prepared? What are some best practices that you would recommend for folks going to meetups like this, so that they come in the door, number one, ready, and two, when they're in, take most advantage of it.
Well, I think it's easy, especially if you're in the business of helping other businesses do well, that you get caught up in helping other businesses talk about themselves, and you forget to like actually prepare exactly what it is that you do. So that's something that is a given, but you'd be surprised how many people are like not ready to basically say this is what we do and who we work with and all those kinds of things. So I think it's kind of you did a really great job even in this conversation doing that. But I think a great way to prepare is to actually look into the membership that Softland Partners has, and even just to see what those questions are and at least have those ready to answer, right? Because those are really important. The other one is I think just being ready to give first. It's something that I think most of the startup community has, that give first mentality, and that's something that was really bred out of like necessity. And I think it's just become like one of the most important pieces of like ethics in the startup world. But I think in general, like going into that and saying not so much like what am I going to get out of this or who's going to give me an opportunity, but to say what can I offer to others. I think some of the best partnerships and relationships that I've formed have been ones of mutual interest before someone was saying, here's what I need from you. And even better, I've seen where I've been able to help somebody first, those tend to turn into the strongest relationships that have reciprocated 10 times over. So coming with that mentality, I think, is really important. And then I think the openness, right? I mentioned just personally feeling pretty neutral about competition, but we're bound to end up in circumstances where where you're going to connect with somebody who's doing something very similar, if not exactly the same. I remember when I first started my business, I was like, oh, this is like super unique, and like there's not that many people who do this. And then like it's you find your competition so much faster when you're actually in market. That's like super important. So I immediately was like, oh no, there's like all these different people, and they continue to come out. And for the most part, like I know a lot of them. They're people that I've worked with before. They're people that I've become friends with. So I don't have like, I think it's important for us to see like, differences as value, and competition is as a way to like boost things. And so to remain open about that will be really important as this meetup grows, because there's 100% going to be people doing, there's no way that we're all doing different things for these companies. Right. So.
Absolutely. Cool. And Alice, thoughts about best practices you would suggest for people coming to a meetup?
Yeah, so I maintain two things that I like to think about and kind of review before I go to meet up. One is, I have an ideal client profile, and like Philip said, I think you have to be able to really clearly and succinctly talk about who you want to meet. So I think kind of just being like having that on your tongue and really comfortable with that is important. But then I also have a profile that we keep for our ideal referral partner. And so really thinking about who are people that we want in our network. So we keep a spreadsheet on that. I tend to look at that and be like, hey, where are there gaps? Maybe people moved away, maybe people are not as responsive or have retired, and kind of like, where might I need more people, or where might I need more people for this particular ideal client, right? This soft landing ideal client. And then I want to kind of go through the attendee list, and look through their LinkedIn profile, check out some people's websites, get a sense of who is kind of someone who might fit that list for me, or who is someone that might fit a need that I heard about recently, right? Who are my other partners looking to meet? Who are my clients looking to meet? How could I come with a referral for somebody, right? And I love that Philip was talking about, you want to provide, you want to give first. We talk about in our company, in every interaction, we always want to, what we call provide value ahead of time, right? We want to demonstrate value before we're ever asking for something, before we're ever selling something. We want to show that we have something to offer. And so I like to always kind of approach it with like, what do I have to offer? And I think, not underestimating that a big smile, a friendly handshake, a genuine welcome can be a really lovely offer that makes people feel warm and welcome. And so being that person who is that way within a community is a wonderful way to grow community, even if you're small and starting and don't necessarily have an immediate, referral or connection to make. So those would be the things that I would say are kind of general networking best practices. And then here, I think also because our community, I think, is a little bit unique in that it's not just service providers, right? Or not just kind of these other types of communities like chambers of commerce or incubators or things like that, right? Really making sure that you understand the difference, or you go into the event with an open mind to kind of learn how these different types of companies or community partners are really part of our community and how they all work together. And I think that's something, hopefully we as chapter leaders and founding members can help with, right? Is really helping people understand the ecosystem that we're a part of.
Absolutely. No, I love what you both said. And the thing that strikes me about what you said, Alice, was the notion of focus on resources that your clients need. So are there gaps and all that? And it's funny, when I used to do a lot of speaking on networking, and when I would go into a room full of people and I'd ask, where do your best referrals come from? Uh, Usually at least 95 to 98% of the people would raise their hands when I would ask, do your best referrals come from current or past clients? That would be the sort of the number one. And if that's the number one response, then it seems like the best way to cause more of that to happen is to have happier clients. And the more you're the source of their satisfaction, whether it's direct or indirect, it seems like the more memorable, the more they're going to think of you and connect you to other people and people who they want to help succeed in a similar way. So yeah, it seems like just the perfect way to build your bullpen, and to but coming in with those gaps in mind, so that whether that person, that key resource is in the room, or you ask people, hey, do you know someone who does X or Y service? And you make that connection, because I think a lot of this is how do we get to the second and third degree connections? That's ultimately what networking is, and that only happens as we build intimacy and trust and all that kind of fun stuff. So, but good.